I have never used oil pastels before. So this is my first attempt at oil pastels. Today I'm going to show you the Gallery Mungyo Artist Soft Oil Pastels. These are supposed to be more professional, but again, they only cost about $23, $24 on Amazon. This set contains 48 colors. It's really nice. But before I go over the project with you, I want to go ahead and go over some blending techniques with oil pastels since I have no clue. And I did look up some blending techniques and this is what I found. I went ahead and laid down some colors next to each other. I used the color wheel and I used the colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel to blend because those are the ones that usually cause the best blends. For the first blending technique, I will use my finger. And you know what? I like this. It's really smooth, easy to blend, and it looks really nice. Messy, but I like it. The next blending technique will be a wet finger. So it looks like with these Mungyo oil pastels, a wet finger isn't going to work, and so, water and oil won't mix. For the next blend, I will be using 100% cotton piece of cloth and see how this blends out. Okay, it's working. I kind of like my finger better, but it's okay. I feel like I have to work it a little more. It's a little bit of a blend, but it isn't the greatest. At least with this 3-color blend. Okay, so on to the next one. The next one will be using a blending stump or a Q-tip. And I will be using a blending stump. And you know what? I really like this. It's so smooth. It kind of reminds me of how I blended with my finger, except my finger isn't getting dirty. So I like that. I think I'm definitely going to be using this. I think it's a lot of fun. The next blending technique will be using Gamsol, which is a solvent. And this one, you can't smell anything, so it doesn't have a smell. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it reminds me of, water-soluble oil pastels when you use this blending technique. It's really fun. Of course, you got to be careful not to mix the paints on top of each other if that's not what you're going for. But you also have to use a very little of this Gamsol. So I like this. I'm not sure if I would be using it much, but it's definitely fun. And last but not least, we'll be using the white oil pastel stick that comes with the set. This is probably good for blending out skin tones or if you want more muted colors or pastel colors. This blending technique really works well for that. In all honesty, this will actually be my favorite blending technique, but not particularly with the white oil pastel, and you will see what I'm talking about in the project. Now that I've learned a little bit about blending oil pastels, I'm going to go ahead and start my project. I decided not to go with something too complicated. I wanted to go with something simple, so I decided I'm just going to pick one object. And I felt like a piece of fruit was pretty easy, and I didn't want to do the typical apple, so I decided to pick an orange. And so that's what I'll be working on today. I decided to start out with the highlight first. I wanted to make sure that highlight was going to be the brightest it can be, so that's where I started since I'm working on black paper. And I figured from there I can start building to the midtones and then the darker values, and then go back to add more details with some of the lighter colors. Here's my opinion on the Mungyo oil pastels. I think they're very soft, but obviously not as soft as other more expensive brands. But I don't mind this at all. I didn't want to get too messy anyways, and so I felt like for me this medium was perfect. Not too soft and not too hard. and it didn't really even flake. I just went layer by layer. I didn't press too hard. So I didn't want to press too hard. I just tried to fill in those areas where some of the black paper was still shining through, but also made sure that I used the correct colors at the right time. I decided that I did not want to use the blending stump very much at all. I'm just going to focus on the pure oil pastels and layering. And I did add some black oil pastel to the background because there are some marks there that I made, and I'm not really sure if I can erase them or not. So I decided I'll just cover them and I'll figure out if I can erase them for another project. But I can blend those out if I want with the stump. But you'll notice I won't be using the blending stump very much. In fact, I won't be using any of those blending techniques. I will just be using the oil pastels that are blending together. I'm going to use the tip of the blending stump on the leaf because it's just such fine and small little details. So it's perfect for that. Right here I'm using 100% cotton cloth to blend out the background. And it does a really good job at that. Now I'm using the blending stump for those small little areas in the background. And I think I'm done. I really like that the black oil pastel was able to cover up those marks on the black paper, and I was able to blend that out as well. So in my opinion, these Mungyo oil pastels are great. I really, really love them. Yes, they're not the most expensive and the most super soft, but they're right in between. And the best thing I love about them is they don't flake and they're bright. And what a great price, $24 for 48 sticks.